A new school choice law in Missouri could mean more attendance at private and charter schools within the state. I'm Zach Dodge with how that law will work, coming up.
COVID-19 cases surging in states across the country. This as many still fight mask mandates. I'm Phil Keating in Miami-Dade County with the latest coming up.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Jordan Abbey. The family of Daniel Holden, a man who died in Carthage police custody, is suing the Carthage Police Department and the city of Carthage. The suit alleges that Holden ingested meth during a traffic stop that he received during a controlled buy orchestrated by police. And that after he ingested that meth, a total of 13 grams, he began seizing and vomiting in the jail. The suit says police did not immediately call for emergency medical help despite knowing that Holden ingested the meth. Instead, attorneys for the family say officers took Holden into an interrogation room before providing any medical assistance. The family is asking for compensation for all losses and damages. Law enforcement in Lamar, Missouri this morning arrested a man accused of robbing a bank. Authorities say 50-year-old Rowdy Masterson of Lamar was leaving the Community National Bank and Trust as officers were responding to calls that it was being robbed. Masterson is charged with attempted second-degree robbery, terroristic threats, and felony resisting arrest. The U.S. Census data is out, and the 4 states has seen some growth. Joplin grew by more than 1,600 people. In 2010, the population was 50,150 people, and 10 years later, it grew to 51,762. In Pittsburgh, the city's population grew from 20,233 to 20,646. Volunteers showed up today to help residents vacate the Miami Towers in downtown Miami. The city is working on renovating the 100-year-old building, but an engineering survey showed the structural integrity of the building is compromised. The city gave residents until noon today to vacate. Some of those residents are elderly, so volunteers turned out to help.
So I think a lot of people have really been struggling with the anxiety. So we felt the need as a mental health organization to come down and make sure that we're here not only to help people physically move, but for emotional support as well.
The Miami Housing Authority put residents in new temporary homes. Missouri's new school choice law could mean more students in private and charter schools in the state. Some are rallying against it, though, saying it takes money away from the already underfunded public education system in the state. KOAM's Zach Dodge has details.
With pencils on paper, students at College Heights Christian School start the first day of school.
Come in that door, grab your papers on your way in.
Everything's going very well. This year we were blessed. We increased our enrollment by almost 60 students.
And College Heights could have even more students this time next year because of a new school choice law here in Missouri. In a nutshell, it will work by giving tax credits to people who donate into scholarship funds throughout the state. Those scholarship funds, starting next year, would then go to students with disabilities or those who come from low-income households so they can attend a private or charter school. Each student who qualifies would get up to $6,300. At College Heights, tuition ranges from around $3,000 to $7,000 a year, depending on the grade.
Even though we work really hard to keep our tuition low, it's still kind of out of the reach of some families. It gives families who might not have that option, the option.
The traditional public school is probably best for most kids, but it doesn't mean it's the best option for all kids. And so we need to provide parents other options.
Some are pushing against the program, though, saying it's a way of diverting tax money away from the already underfunded education system in the state.
We need to be investing more money in public education right now in the state of Missouri rather than reducing the resources available.
The reality is it should be money going to educate a child. If you take any other government program that we have, for instance, like food stamps, we don't go to a government grocery store. Why should we do something different in education?
In Joplin, Zach Dodge, KOAM News.
The program will be available only in cities with populations higher than 30,000. In our area, that means only Joplin. And students who take part in the program will continue to be counted in their home districts for the first 5 years of the program. New research indicates the Pfizer and Moderna COVID-19 vaccines are less effective than usual when fighting the Delta variant. Researchers at the Mayo Clinic posted the study this week. They found the Pfizer vaccine's effectiveness dropped by 34% to 42% when exposed to Delta. The Moderna vaccine's effectiveness declined by 10%, from 86% to 76% when fighting Delta. Pfizer issued a statement saying no variant, including Delta, can escape the protection of its vaccine. The study has not yet been peer-reviewed. As the Delta variant continues to surge across the country, the FDA looks to protect the vulnerable, and the battle over mask mandates continues. Fox News correspondent Phil Keating has more now from Florida.
San Francisco becoming the first U.S. city to require proof of full vaccination for many indoor activities, including restaurants, bars, and gyms. The decision going a step further than New York City's, where it will require proof of only one dose of the COVID-19 vaccine. This as cases continue to surge across the country, fueled by the Delta variant and seen mostly among the unvaccinated population.
I've lost colleagues, I've lost friends. The only way we can stop that from happening is with vaccination.
In Florida, the state breaking a daily COVID record for the third time this week, with nearly 25,000 new COVID cases reported Wednesday. A big concern there are the children who are contracting the virus, especially as they head back to school. And the battle over masks continues, with some districts defying Governor DeSantis' ban on mask mandates. The state's education commissioner threatening sanctions against those districts, including withholding salaries.
Money's one thing. Protecting our children and doing the right thing is always the right thing to do.
Meanwhile, the FDA is working with Pfizer and Moderna and is expected to approve the use of a third shot, a booster, among the immunocompromised population.
An additional dose could help increase protection for these individuals, which is especially important as the Delta variant spreads.
And the CDC now urging all pregnant women to go ahead and get the vaccine, saying they have a risk of severe illness if they contract it. In Miami-Dade County, Phil Keating, Fox News.
Concerns over inflation are growing as a new government report shows consumer prices are climbing. Fox's Madeline Rivera is in D.C., where lawmakers are raising the alarm despite the president's belief that the prices increases are going to be short-lived.
Faced with higher prices at the grocery store,
I'd say at least, 7 to 10 to 12% increase.
People throughout the country are cutting back on expenses.
The prices are just so outrageous, I can't afford it.
Folks are shelling out more at the pump, with the national gas price average at $3.19, the most expensive gas price average of the year. Frustration now reflected in a new poll. 70% of voters say the spike in groceries has caused hardship for their families, while 67% say they're struggling with the cost of gas.
I think the consumer has not reached that point yet. I think they're in the griping stage and the complaining stage, and I think appropriately.
The Biden administration is urging the Federal Trade Commission to crack down on anti-competitive behavior that could be driving up costs, one of several steps they're taking to address the higher cost of living.
We got to go at supply chain bottlenecks that, because this economy has come back and demand has come back strongly, are keeping goods from moving as quickly as they could and actually keeping prices up.
But the poll also lays out a potential problem for the White House, as it shows 79% of voters believe the government's economic policies are to blame. 86% think the coronavirus pandemic is the cause.
This is the epic battle that we're facing between capitalism and free markets, letting free choice and transparency drive prosperity and central planning.
Approval of the president's handling of the economy has dipped 4 points since June. 47% of voters approve of his performance, while 49% disapprove. In Washington, Madeline Rivera, Fox News.
KOAM News at 9 on Fox 14 takes this time now to honor another four-state hero. Michael Shaw served in the U.S. Army, spending time in Iraq. We are proud to thank and salute Michael Shaw, native of Fort Scott, Kansas. He's tonight's four-state hero. Doug Heddy's next with a complete look at the forecast, and later a former Pitt State basketball standout returning as an assistant coach. Gonna have the story in sports.
Well, another hot, very humid day for us today. Temperatures right back up into the upper 90s for afternoon highs, as it's been pretty much that way all week long. We've been dry, it's been hot, it's been humid. Nice live shot of Indigo Sky Casino and Resort. Of course, Indigo is just outside of Seneca, Missouri. All right, temperatures around the region it has actually cooled down a little bit. We've had some thunderstorms kind of rolling through southwestern parts of Missouri, and it's kind of pushed out a little gust front across the region. So it feels at least a little bit better out there, and temperatures are going to cool off a little bit over the next couple days. Still, a heat index makes it feel like near 90, especially in our southwestern counties, but cooler on the Missouri side where we have had those scattered showers and thunderstorms. 7th and range line. If you look to the north, you can see a little bit of lightning out there. 79 east, northeasterly winds at about 10 with that little gust front that has pushed through. Humidity is at 60%. Look at this band of showers and thunderstorms, and then you can see this little line ahead of it all the way right through here. That is that little outflow boundary, a little gust front that has kind of pushed through ahead of these storms as these drop off toward the south and to the east. So that little line has cooled it off just a little bit as it has rotated through. But you can see these thunderstorms. Nevada, here's Lamar, a little cluster near Pittsburgh, one little cluster just to the north of Joplin, Oronogo, and then a little batch just to the east side of Joplin, near Granby, and then over toward Monette, Mount Vernon, and then just to the north of Cassville. So we have these clusters which are working through. None of these too strong, but we're getting some thunder and lightning, some heavy amounts of rain out of some of these little storms. And then they continue back near Kansas City, and then all the way out through central parts of Kansas. And this is going to really work in for us late tonight into tomorrow morning. So we got this cluster first, and then the second cluster, which is going to roll in later on tonight. Also, look at the wind shift line. You can see right through here. So north winds, south winds. That's a weak little front that is going to push through the region and make it feel a little bit better as we go through the next few days. All right, so here's 1:30 in the morning. First cluster is gone. We'll watch more thunderstorms build to the north. These will sink south as we go into the morning. So here's 7:30 in the morning. Scattered showers and thunderstorms. These will dissipate late morning. And then by afternoon, we'll get some scattered thunderstorms, but in our southern counties, along and south of Interstate 44. You can see this cluster tomorrow evening. Again, mainly our southern counties, and then we'll start to dry out a bit. We'll get some additional pop-up random thunderstorms again by the time we head into Saturday afternoon. So temperatures tomorrow, they're still going to be hot, but at least a little bit better as we make it right around 90, 91, 92 degrees during the afternoon. But we are going to continue to have those scattered showers and thunderstorms. Heat indices still upper 90s to near 100 for us tomorrow, but at least a little bit better than what we have seen. 92 tomorrow, 90 on Saturday, 88 on Sunday, so a little bit cooler, and then warming back up just a bit by the middle of next week. Jordan?
All right, Doug, thanks so much. Coming up, the Homeland Security Secretary holding a meeting at the southern border to discuss the surge of migrants flowing in. The Homeland Security Secretary was down at the southern border today meeting with those on the front lines of the migrant surge. He also revealed new Customs and Border Protection numbers, and they're higher than expected. Fox's Lauren Blanchard is in Washington with more on what the Biden administration is doing to address this growing surge.
We are encountering an unprecedented number of migrants in between the ports of entry at our southern border.
Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas down at the southern border. He announced more than 212,000 migrants were encountered in July. That number, a 13% increase over June. A majority are single adults who are immediately turned back.
We confront challenges and we meet them.
From October to now, 1.3 million migrants have been encountered along the border, 67% of those along the Texas border. Democratic Representative Henry Cuellar says Border Patrol needs more help.
They're strained, they're overworked, they don't need just a pat in the back, they actually need the resources.
As border communities have had to deal with overflowing migrant centers and COVID-19 infections.
This is a tragedy. It's a public health crisis. It's a national security crisis.
A new Fox News poll finds only 35% of voters approve of the president's handling of the situation. 57% disapprove. Many Republicans blame the Biden administration and their rollback of Trump administration policies for the surge. Congressman Chip Roy says Secretary Mayorkas needs to go.
We've had enough of it, and the secretary needs to go, and the president needs to go after him if he won't do his job.
Next week, Secretary Mayorkas heads to Miami. Last month, he warned Cubans and Haitians not to try to come to the U.S. illegally by sea, saying they would not be allowed if they tried. In Washington, Lauren Blanchard, Fox News.
Next, going in the right direction or not.
What do voters think about the course of the coronavirus and the president's handling of the economy? I'm Doug Luzader in Washington. There's some very interesting polling numbers just ahead.
An unusual find right outside a Major League Baseball stadium. Ground-penetrating radar picking up what appears to be 3 unmarked graves in the ground beneath the parking lots outside Tropicana Field, home of the Tampa Bay Rays. A USF research team says the graves belong to a nearby cemetery that had segregated black and white sections. It's the latest of multiple unmarked graves found around Tampa Bay from black cemeteries that have been erased over time. Since 2019, archaeologists have discovered at least 4 hidden cemeteries around Tampa Bay. The numbers are in. New Fox polls show where the country stands now on everything from the coronavirus to President Biden's job performance. Fox News correspondent Doug Luzader has a deep dive into the data from Washington.
We're tracking some growing concerns about the virus, about the economy. We also found that the country is deeply divided on just how far we should go to protect ourselves. Get a shot or face weekly COVID tests. California now requiring all school staff members across the state to make a choice.
We think this is the right thing to do, and we think this is a sustainable way to keeping our schools open.
The public, though, is split right down the middle on COVID vaccination rules. About half of registered voters say safety is more important than freedom. About the same number say just the opposite. And President Biden's coronavirus approval numbers have dropped, falling 10 points since June.
I would argue the Biden economic plan is working.
On the economy, 86% of voters, though, are concerned about inflation, with the consumer price index on the rise. Topping the list in our poll, higher grocery and gas prices. And some see more trouble ahead as government relief programs expire.
But when that money runs out or inflation outstrips that funding from the government, I think there's going to be a day of reckoning.
And then there's the southern border, still overwhelmed with the flow of illegal immigrants.
In my 30 years, this is the most complicated situation I've ever experienced.
The incoming U.S. Border Patrol chief did not mince words about what he's facing. And some of the president's worst numbers are on immigration, where just 35% of voters approve of his efforts. And this is something the White House is clearly aware of. The Secretary of Homeland Security is heading to South Texas today to see the border situation firsthand. In Washington, Doug Luzader, Fox News.
Coming up, Ihop adding a few more items to its menu. More on these breakfast beverages when we come back. Have some stories for you that in some way show the changing of times. Businesses changing strategy to stay in the game. First up, Ihop. Happy hour at Ihop. The chain's new Bubbles Wine and Brews menu is now available at select Ihop locations. It features domestically and locally sourced beers, as well as some wine options. Ihop customers in San Diego and New Mexico can order from the menu now. It's going to start appearing in New York, Rhode Island, Maryland, Ohio, and more locations in the coming months. Next, the future of drive-thru. Taco Bell has created new prototypes for its restaurants. The new design will feature 4 lines for pickup, but 3 of them will be for mobile or delivery orders. The company is calling it the Taco Bell Defy, and it's designed to speed up your order while serving more customers. The restaurants are going to have digital screens that can read a code on your phone. They're going to be 3,000 square feet, 2 stories. Taco Bell says they're going to start popping up in the summer of 2022. Now, Wendy's announcing it's opening 700 ghost kitchens. The fast food giant says the kitchens will open across the U.S., U.K., and Canada by 2025. What are ghost kitchens? Kitchens are designed as off-premises restaurant dining where facilities will handle delivery orders through third-party apps. Franchise disclosure documents claim the average gross annual sales for a franchised Wendy's restaurant in the United States was said to be $1.75 million last year. 30 more minutes, news, weather, and sports coming your way.
The leaders at the Irene Ransom Bradley School of Nursing have been training nurses in Crawford County to specialize in sexual assault and domestic abuse for years. But now they'll be doing it for the entire state of Kansas. Details are next.
Also, how the Economic Security Corporation in Joplin tried to help the homeless today become more independent. SANE stands for Sexual Assault Nurse Examiner. And today at Pitt State, nurses spent the day training to become SANE certified. Thanks to a new $1.5 million grant, this local training will spread throughout Kansas. KOAM's Mike Mahoney was at that training, and Mike has the details.
According to the KBI's Kansas Crime Index 2020, cases of reported rape in Kansas decreased from 1,297 in 2019 to 1,190 in 2020. But in 2021, Wendy Overstreet, a sexual assault nurse examiner and coordinator of PSU's SANE program, says that's not what she sees in Crawford County.
We have noticed here just at our facilities, which is the Southeast Kansas Community Health Center and Ascension Health, we have noticed an increase, especially over the weekend, of reported cases. We went from seeing none to, in the last 4 to 6 weeks, we do about 2 to 3 a weekend, and now over the last 3 weeks, we've had 1 to 2 report during the week.
Fortunately, help is on the way as Kansas nurses spent Thursday training to become SANE certified at PSU's Irene Ransom Bradley School of Nursing. And they weren't alone. Local law enforcement was there to make sure they're on the same page with SANE nurses when it comes to both sexual assault and domestic violence.
This class really allows law enforcement the opportunity to see and experience what our SANE nurse partners look at, why they collect evidence, how they collect evidence, why they ask the questions to the victims that they do, how they ask those questions, and what they write in their reports. So whenever we get those reports, we're able to understand the process that they went through with the victims of sexual assault, and then we can convey that information to our prosecutor.
Wendy Overstreet and her co-workers have been training SANE nurses for Crawford County since they received a grant for it in 2018. Now, the grant has been extended and given a $1.5 million boost, so the experts at PSU can train nurses throughout Kansas. And Wendy says that's exactly what the Sunshine State needs, with only 18 to 20% of Kansas counties having a registered SANE nurse or SANE facility.
I just want it to where patients or victims don't have to drive 4 to 5 hours to receive care. So if we can get it 30 to 45 minutes, we'd be good.
In Crawford County, Mike Mahoney, KOAM News.
SANE training is free of charge and is also made possible because of assistance from the Kansas Coalition Against Sexual and Domestic Violence. Kansas Governor Laura Kelly today announced the state is handing out more than $6 million in grants to 40 domestic violence, sexual assault, and child abuse programs. Hope Unlimited in Allen County is receiving more than $193,000. In Crawford County, Safe House Crisis Center is getting more than $239,000, and Children's Advocacy Center receives $48,000. The Economic Security Corporation's Homeless Coalition today hosted its Summer Project Homeless Connect event in Joplin. Organizers say the event serves as a one-stop shop for people experiencing homelessness to access resources for healthcare, food, employment, and housing, among other things. One homeless woman we spoke to said the event is a big help.
A lot of them are really hot with the temperatures outside, so being able to cut their hair and help them keep cool. And then just giving them a little piece of hope. A lot of them don't have a lot of hope, so if I can speak into them, then.
According to the Economic Security Corporation, there were 313 homeless people in 2020 in Joplin. That number dropped to 210 this year. Officials believe the decline was caused by COVID-19. Joplin's Ronald McDonald House van has a new look right there. Organizers showed off the van's new wrap. It was provided by Sign Design with materials and labor donated by members of the Tri-State Sign Association. Updating the branding is intended to promote awareness of the Ronald McDonald House and all it does to help the families of ill children.
It's always good to have a fresh look, new colors, new style, different graphics, update pictures of people and things, and so we recommend that a lot for our wraps that we may do years in past. It's time to update them every few years.
The Ronald McDonald House of the Four States relies on donations to provide its services. President Biden today announced additional steps he wants Congress to take to lower prescription drug costs. Americans currently pay more than twice as much for prescription drugs than any other developed country in the world. The president is now calling on Congress to allow Medicare to negotiate drug prices. The administration would also like a cap on the amount that Medicare beneficiaries have to pay out of pocket for drugs each year. There's no stopping the Taliban as they make fast progress toward retaking Afghanistan, threatening to erase 20 years of progress after the U.S.-led invasion. Fox News correspondent Lucas Tomlinson has more from the Pentagon.
U.S. forces still pulling out of Afghanistan, but that's not stopping the Taliban from accelerating their offensive. The militants taking over 2 more provincial capitals Thursday. That means 11 in just the past 10 days. And they're creeping closer to Kabul after capturing a key strategic highway connecting southern Afghanistan with the capital. Despite the intensity of the fighting, the Taliban have sent a delegation to an international conference aimed at ending the violence.
We have not closed the political path. The political path is still open. We want to solve problems through dialogue. It is their choice.
But on the ground, the Taliban clearly looking for a military solution. Heavy fighting now being reported in the south. The militants claiming they've seized Kandahar, Afghanistan's second largest city and their spiritual home.
The president has ordered the reduction of civilian personnel at our embassy in Kabul. Forces are being deployed to support the orderly and safe reduction of civilian personnel.
The Pentagon says Afghan forces should be able to stand on their own after decades of training from the American military. But the militants now control more than 2/3 of the country, including much of the north. And a growing number of critics calling on the Biden administration to make plans for containing the Taliban in a post-war Afghanistan, hoping to avoid another 9/11-style attack, with terrorists using the country as a safe haven to strike the U.S.
Afghanistan still has the largest concentration of foreign terrorist organizations in the world, all of which would love to kill Americans.
And for the second time since Saturday, the U.S. Embassy in Kabul urging all Americans to evacuate the country immediately. At the Pentagon, Lucas Tomlinson, Fox News.
A bit later, how an animal shelter is getting creative to find loving, forever homes for their dogs and cats.
Well, another hot, very humid day for us today. Temperatures right back up into the upper 90s for afternoon highs, as it's been pretty much that way all week long. We've been dry, it's been hot, it's been humid. Nice live shot of Indigo Sky Casino and Resort. Of course, Indigo is just outside of Seneca, Missouri. All right, temperatures around the region. It has actually cooled down a little bit. We've had some thunderstorms kind of rolling through southwestern parts of Missouri, and it's kind of pushed out a little gust front across the region. So it feels at least a little bit better out there, and temperatures are going to cool off a little bit over the next couple days. Still, a heat index makes it feel like near 90, especially in our southwestern counties, but cooler on the Missouri side where we have had those scattered showers and thunderstorms. 7th and range line. If you look to the north, you can see a little bit of lightning out there. 79 east, northeasterly winds at about 10 with that little gust front that has pushed through. Humidity is at 60%. Look at this band of showers and thunderstorms, and then you can see this little line ahead of it all the way right through here. That is that little outflow boundary, a little gust front that has kind of pushed through ahead of these storms as these drop off toward the south into the east. So that little line has cooled it off just a little bit as it has rotated through. But you can see these thunderstorms. Nevada, here's Lamar, a little cluster near Pittsburgh, one little cluster just to the north of Joplin, Oronogo, and then a little batch just to the east side of Joplin, near Granby, and then over toward Monette, Mount Vernon, and then just to the north of Cassville. So we have these clusters which are working through. None of these too strong, but we're getting some thunder and lightning, some heavy amounts of rain out of some of these little storms. And then they continue back near Kansas City, and then all the way out through central parts of Kansas. And this is going to really work in for us late tonight into tomorrow morning. So we got this cluster first, and then the second cluster, which is going to roll in later on tonight. Also, look at the wind shift line. You can see right through here. So north winds, south winds. That's a weak little front that is going to push through the region and make it feel a little bit better as we go through the next few days. All right, so here's 1:30 in the morning. First cluster is gone. We'll watch more thunderstorms build to the north. These will sink south as we go into the morning. So here's 7:30 in the morning. Scattered showers and thunderstorms. These will dissipate late morning. And then by afternoon, we'll get some scattered thunderstorms, but in our southern counties, along and south of Interstate 44. You can see this cluster tomorrow evening. Again, mainly our southern counties, and then we'll start to dry out a bit. We'll get some additional pop-up random thunderstorms again by the time we head into Saturday afternoon. So temperatures tomorrow, they're still going to be hot, but at least a little bit better as we make it right around 90, 91, 92 degrees during the afternoon. But we are going to continue to have those scattered showers and thunderstorms. Heat indices still upper 90s to near 100 for us tomorrow, but at least a little bit better than what we have seen. 92 tomorrow, 90 on Saturday, 88 on Sunday, so a little bit cooler, and then warming back up just a bit by the middle of next week. Jordan?
Doug, thanks again. Coming up in sports, Michaela Burgess returns to Pitt State women's basketball. Going to have that story. Also, the Neosho Wildcats beginning their first season under a new head coach. Jacob Leonard has that and more next.
The Neosho Wildcats are in the middle of their first week of football practice. The Wildcats are just a week away from playing in a jamboree and 2 weeks away from their regular season opener. And Neosho coming off a winless season, going 0-10 in 2020. They head into this year with a new head coach in Brandon Towdy. And Towdy comes to Neosho after 10 years at Joplin High School, where he served as offensive coordinator. So he's no stranger to the COC, and he's hoping that experience will help him get this thing turned around in Neosho.
It's going to help a ton, you know. There's a few other new head coaches in the league, so you know, Republic, who we play week 1, is one of them. So we don't know much about those guys, but we already know a lot about a lot of the other coaching staffs and teams. So that helps us a ton just to be able to prepare every week to already have some background information on those guys. Right now, we're just focused on getting better every day, and so I think our strength right now is our mentality and our work ethic, and you know, we're not focused on anything other than today and what's happening right now.
And Neosho opens the season on the 27th on the road against Republic. Former Pittsburgh State basketball standout Michaela Burgess is returning to PSU. Burgess is joining the women's basketball coaching staff as a graduate assistant this season. And with the new job, Burgess has a lot on her plate, but she's excited for the chance to be back with the program. Michaela Burgess could not stay away from basketball.
Conversations with Coach David over the summer, I shared with her, like, it just won't leave me alone. Something about the game is just in my blood. We've always talked about it. We've always kind of hinted around at it the last couple of years, so now it's just all kind of coming to fruition.
Joining the coaching staff at Pittsburgh State will be a balancing act for Burgess, who currently owns and operates a preschool in Webb City.
Coach David's been amazing. She knows that that's my priority. I got to get things done over there, and we will. I have an amazing staff of teachers over there, and they all know, and they're on board. That's mornings only, so I'll just bust it over here in the afternoons, get real familiar with that drive again from Joplin to Pittsburgh.
She is a person, I think, that kind of you feel like has the world in the palm of her hand. Like, she could do a lot of different things. This is something that she wants to be a part of again, and so you obviously do not want to deny that to a person, and I think that she's very capable of doing both.
Burgess played at Pittsburgh State from 2015 to 2018, helping the Gorillas make 3 trips to the national tournament, including an Elite 8 appearance in 2016.
She obviously represents a really competitive and just a great tradition, an era of basketball that was a really special time in the Pittsburgh community.
She's on the other side of the game now, but Burgess is happy to be back with the program and ready to do what she can to help win games.
I think it's an incredible learning opportunity for me. I hope that, you know, there are things that I'm able to share with the girls who are here now. Just the outpour of love has just kind of caught me off guard, but I don't know why, because that's what was handed to me for 4 years when I was here as an athlete.
Burgess is 3rd on the PSU all-time scoring list with 1,856 points. She's also 2nd in program history with 333 made three-pointers in her career. And that's a look at sports. We're back with more news right after the break.
An animal shelter in Germany is getting creative to help find new homes for their resident cats and dogs. As Ian Lee reports, they're using new tricks for an old problem.
Captain Kirk is ready for his close-up and a head scratch. An animal shelter in Germany is using these pictures for the cat's Tinder profile to help him boldly go to a new home. Quite simply, it's a lot of fun and better than boring newspaper ads, this worker says. We thought we'd join the young people and follow the trend on Tinder. You won't find cute kittens or playful puppies here. These are older animals. They still love long walks on the beach, but they have a harder time finding new owners. We've created profiles for 15 potential pets, this man says. It's important to highlight that many of the animals here are lonely souls. The COVID lockdown last year saw many pandemic puppies adopted, but some are now being abandoned as people go back to work. Many ending up at this shelter. Now they've already got folks swiping right in approval of their new Tinder approach. And who knows? Maybe even Captain Kirk will find a perfect match.
Some animal shelters in the United States are reporting the number of pets being returned has doubled since COVID restrictions have been lifted. Next, going to check out what's new to theaters and at-home streaming. Long-awaited comedies, groundbreaking dramas, and scary movie sequels. Here's Fox's Ashley working with a look at this week's new releases.
If we're not real, doesn't that mean that nothing you do matters?
Ryan Reynolds leads Free Guy in theaters. So tell us about this video game set action comedy.
Blue shirt guy, his name is Guy, becomes self-aware and realizes that he is actually a character inside a super crazy video game. And then he must team up with a real world player of the video game to save the game from being destroyed.
Jennifer Hudson stars in the Aretha Franklin biopic Respect.
Prior to Aretha Franklin's death, she handpicked Jennifer Hudson to play her in a biopic. And Jennifer Hudson already receiving Oscar buzz. I thought it was at its strongest when Jennifer Hudson is performing, like Aretha. She has one of the great voices of our time.
Anything to say?
CODA is in theaters and on Apple TV+.
CODA stands for Child of Deaf Adults. It is about a girl who is the only one in her family who isn't deaf, and therefore she carries the burden of helping her family run their local fishing business. But when she sets her sights on a potential singing career, she is caught between her dreams and her responsibility to her family. Honestly, this is one of the best films that you will watch this year.
It's not me you need to be scared of, little girl.
There's the scary sequel, Don't Breathe 2.
It's wrong.
The heist flick Naked Singularity stars John Boyega.
Larry, the plan sucks.
And Black Widow is on all digital platforms. Black Widow, Free Guy, The Suicide Squad, several summer blockbuster options now in theaters and home. In Hollywood, Ashley Dvorkin, Fox News.
And that's our time for tonight. Thanks so much for joining us, as always. Going to leave you with video of 2 Barbary Lion Clubs at a Czech zoo. Be safe. Do this all again tomorrow. See you then.